Hello everyone and welcome back to the campaign diary for my Rime of the Frostmaiden campaign Aracséa edition. In today's session, the party meet a new ally, receive unexpected aid and start to pick up on possible big links for some of the story later down the line. That seems to be the motto of my campaign, doesn't it? Picking up story for later down the line. Hopefully it'll all pay off when they do start piecing things together. It's certainly been fun for me to start putting these breadcrumbs out, kind of like Dark Souls style storytelling, this environmental storytelling almost. So for those keeping track of time, we will end this session a day later, so it'll be the 14th of Caroline by the end of the session, having picked up immediately from where we left off. And we start this session off with a combat, of course. They have just come across two talking winter wolves with glowing blue eyes that, excuse me, are attacking the Khotun, this Khotun creature that they've encountered on the ground. This Khotun being Carl's new interim character while Stronus is away. It was a relatively simple fight, not much damage was taken, and it was somewhat simple to deal with. And the reasons for putting it here was obviously one, a way to introduce Carl's character, but it was also to introduce this idea about these talking creatures, as we will know them as awakened creatures. The party haven't heard that term or phrase for them yet, and there is something they will investigate later on in this session, which will help reinforce this idea about more awakened creatures. And let's just talk about that for a second. So there is like the whole part of like a sub story, if you like that is kind of centralized on this western side of Ten Towns, and it's more or less, it's very heavily linked in with the Thrakari, which are Rayna's people, and the events in Lonelywood, and something that's happened there, which we will see should they go to Bremen, and stuff like that will start coming out. And yeah, it's all to do with stuff that's kind of happened to the tribe while Rayna's been away, and a particular character called Ravison. Now, if you have the Rime of the Frostmaiden book, you will know that she is in the book a frost druid in the service of Auril. Well, since I don't have that stuff in my version, she is not that. She is something else. She is tied somewhat to the Thrakari in more ways, more than one perhaps, and a few other things as well. And she has her own motivations for what she does. She is Her modus operandi is still like consists of awakening certain creatures and things like that. She's still, for most intensive purposes, a druid, even though she's more of the turned, fallen druid archetype. And yeah, she still is this person responsible for all the awakened creatures, the wolves in Dugan's Hole, the two who are attacking the Khotun right now, the lake monster, the savage elk, and all that kind of stuff. It should all be revealed to them and to you, the listeners, in a future episode. And yeah, so during this fight, they also used it as an opportunity to kind of for Carl to test out some of his new tricks. He is a rogue, an arcane trickster. I did ask him, like, why did you fancy playing a rogue? So I don't know, just kind of did. So okay, fair enough. That's more reason than any. After the fight, the group did spend about 5 minutes, trying to figure each other out. Carl introduces his character by like sneaking up to them, trying to do insight checks, and slowly revealing himself through the blizzard. His character's name is Forsburn Twinsblade, a Khotun of the Frost clan up to the far north. And I have here a little snippet that Carl and I thought up, just a little background for his character. I'll throw it on the screen, and why not? Let's hear it from Forsburn himself. Let's let Forsburn deliver it to us.
I used to be a recon specialist for the Frost clan. It was a harsh life, but it's all I ever knew. My commanding officer, Corvus Drakeeye, he never liked me. Always treated me like dirt, but I never gave him the satisfaction of lashing out. All I cared about was getting above him, to show him what kind of trash he really was in the face of a true superior. I would take increasingly more riskier missions in my bid for more status, until the day Corvus tasked me with performing an assassination on a member of the tribe who was planning a coup. Yet when I arrived with weapon in hand, I was immediately ambushed for treason by the CO himself. I'm not sure why he did it, but he ripped my way of life away from me. Maybe he's just a piece of shit that will end up with my blades to his throat one day. He and his men left me for dead on the long shelf, till I was found by a roaming tabaxi. I was bloody, battered, and bruised, but still standing. I don't know why he led me to shelter. Others wouldn't exactly call my kind trustworthy, but he did, all the same. A small gang of hooded humans attacked his caravan the next day, so in return, I cut them down like the gracious guest I am. I lifted a small tome off the one casting spells. Roz has been helping me understand it, and it's not like I don't have free time for myself at the moment. But now, who knows what I'll do? I've lost my purpose. But maybe, if I peel back the layers of the Rime, I can find it once more. My name is Forsburn Twinsblade.
Yeah, so I don't know how much of that I'm going to use in terms of integrating into a larger story. That entirely depends on how long Forsburn is able to live and stick around. Carl did say that the fate of the character is more or less down to the dice and any plans that I may come up with. We discussed if he wanted the story at all, that, kind of pre-planned for him and general purpose. All I really got was not really, and I think we're both content to see what plays out with Forsburn. Again, Forsburn's invention and a whole reason for the character is kind of a direct intervention from myself, the DM, and the PC, Carl, to try and shift the group into a more focused and serious direction. A few things I will mention is that Raz that was mentioned in the little blurb there, whose full name is Aracséa, is a NPC I have show up in every one of my games. He is the closest thing there is to like a true god almost. And when I say that, I basically just mean it's the DM, it's me in the game. Although in the game he is little more than just like a travelling magic merchant, more or less. And it is in fact him and his tower that have mysteriously appeared in Bremen. You may have heard in a previous episode that picked up some rumours about this thing. It's actually Razishar. It's a perfect place to put him, so there he was. The thing with Raz is, it's like another sort of nod to the fact that because it was him that found Forsburn, it kind of reinforces that, it's DM and PC direct intervention, kind of meta idea, which I think Dan, Rainer's player, will really like when he catches wind of it. He liked that sort of thing when I did it in the Armin game as well. At any rate, they have a small introduction there. Forsburn agrees to go with them, seeing as he is out for a bit of a wander, and they continue on their journey to Targos. Forsburn takes a moment to cast Disguise Self and turns into a middle-aged bald man with a ginger tuft on his chin. Again, humans don't take lightly to Khotun in these parts. Being at war with them as recently as 20 years ago, and more common to seeing them raiding them and pillaging and all that kind of stuff. Ren herself has a little moment of anxiety and sort of clearing her head before she enters the town once again. Understandable, given her last experience there, albeit one that she enticed. They head straight to Three Flags Sailing and sit down at the table and are served by the Mrs. Doubtfire type owner there, affectionately called Ma. That's Ethel. They sit, have a talk about their reason to be there, eat some fish and chips, even talk a little bit about Stronus and Forsburn's intentions, again trying to figure him out a little bit more. At any rate, one point, Arena goes to use the ladies' room and is confronted by Bane, that big black tiefling in the heavy plate mail, the head of the militia here at Targos, and he informs her that the speaker would like to speak with them. Obviously, this whole interaction gives Reyna the chills, as she is constantly brought back to that last encounter here. Although, if Dan and, of course, Reyna had remembered correctly, it was in fact Bane that sort of saved her from the last interaction. So, yeah, we'll leave that one there. It is also here that I have Raz send Forsburn a message telepathically, something along the lines of, "You're running a bit late for your lesson." He's an arcane trickster, so Raz has been teaching Forsburn how to use magic. will you be around later? Just let me know if you're not, kind of thing. That sort of thing, which again was there to cement this kind of relationship they'd built, and to prod them to maybe go to Brennan and check things out there. I really, really want the story to progress to that side. I'm normally not a big fan of railroading, but man, I'm trying not to, but I really want to give them multiple reasons to go there, because I think it's really going to bring out some really cool story. Anyway, um, they finish up there and they head to the Phantom Diver. And immediately, Forsburn feels like it's somewhere that no one would willingly walk into. He notices the amount of thugs around and can feel the tension like coals on his shoulder, and the entire time is like keeping his head on a swivel as he enters the pub. This might be a good time to talk about the Kotun somewhat and why Forsburn is the way he is. They are, let's go into a little bit of a lore dump here. They are taught from a young age all aspects of war. They are taken from their sires and sows. They're like given to like a commanding officer and like placed in a war band of sorts, a creche of similarly aged Khotun who are then like trained and encouraged to specialize at certain aspects of war and trickery and things like that to suit the clan's needs. Khotun are taught nothing but the values of what it is to be a Khotun, and being Khotun is, just being a member of that race is a value in itself. It's things like rising in the ranks and earning for the clan is all a part of that. Having your place. It's a big part of their identity, and they have it drilled into them from such a young age, like right from the day set go, and so much so that when they leave, or more likely exiled and left for dead and things like that, they kind of lose all that sort of identity. They're shunned from, they're separate from the clan. They don't have what it means to be a Khotun anymore, and they're completely lost. And they struggle to really make any sort of connections in other societies. Again, because they're trying to correlate other societies to what they know, and it just doesn't fit, and then they're trying to apply that knowledge to those societies, and again it just doesn't fit because it's so different, and they're not able to change that because it's been drilled into them from so early on. Frost Clan in particular is the predominant clan in the Long Shelf and in the Frostgales in general, and was once called most of this area, the of like 10 towns and the surrounding part, its home, and in fact the main factor that has been the main factor in most of the recent wars. Frost Clan is seen as kind of like the fallen clan. They're the reclaimers, they're the hardy survivors, and they are like near desperate to retake their homeland, as it were, as a force to the north is forcing them to go further south, which will come up at a different time. Um, in fact, it's not just the Frost Clan, although it's Khotun all across the north of Aracséa are in fact preparing to make an assault on the south to reclaim some of that lost land, and that is a big part of what will happen in campaign 2 for Aracséa. That is after the Armin game, which I still need to do a video for, after this campaign, which is kind of a campaign 1.5, and Strahd, which will maybe take place at the same time as campaign 2. I have various things planned for the timeline of Aracséa, and it all will blend seamlessly one into the next. So the end of this campaign will be the kickstart for campaign 2 as well. Some more things about the Khotun. They kind of believe in general about the survival of the fittest, and they reward those who achieve great things for the clan. They have a weird sense of honor from battle and this sense of hierarchy. Yet there's also a side to them where, like, if you can advance by simply killing your commanding officer, but if you manage to get caught, you are exiled for treason. Is that kind of like that thing from the Dredge novels? With the Dark Elves, that if they all know it goes on, that this undermining other houses happens, but unless they're caught doing it, it's considered like it doesn't even happen. It's kind of got that kind of mentality here. They kind of equally trust their Warcrash like family, but are also paranoid that there will be another victim of someone else's rise to power, kind of thing. And so, like, with all this in mind, if we think about this when we're looking at how Forsburn perceives the world and through his eyes, he's recently kicked out the clan, has been left alone. He's obviously a bit without purpose at the moment, despite being kicked from a clan that maybe he wasn't too hot. His crash that wasn't too hot with his commanding officer wasn't too great. It's still like all he knows is still what he believes. He probably believes he probably should have been kicked out to some degree. Um, and so, like most Khotun that have exiled and survived, he's forced to do what most of them do, which is try and find a means where he can to try and fit in. It's either that or die most of the time. And for some Khotun, that could be as simple as wanting to be the best at something, or have the most money as like a sign of rank. Everything they do is like through that lens of that Khotun society, and they kind of operate in human lands very different to how a normal person would. And I'm looking forward to how Carl and Forsburn um, will be using this and kind of seeing the world and analysing it through that lens as we move forward. And this kind of leads us back to how he reads this room. To Forsburn, this is suicide walking into this room. This is like to him, this is an enemy clan waiting to mash them up when he walks in. It's why would they even think to do that? But they do so anyway. They speak the passphrase to the barkeep. They're escorted to Neth's lavish underground hideout, and it is there that Neth begins by apologising to Rayna actually for what happened in Targos last time, claiming that those men that have been they've been dealt with, they've acted against orders. In fact, he even goes so far as to state it was he sent them off to a hunt for the lake beast and haven't returned. So in all, it's a win-win. Uh, he claims that they were in the pocket of none other than Meryn Throth, who he has discovered has been trying to undermine him by attempting to set up an opposing organisation in Goodmead, and has paid off like a hefty number of his crew and a militia elsewhere. He notes that Meryn did try to return to his abode here in Targos, but was scared off by Neth's white mask thugs. Forsburn this entire time is very on edge, constantly checking for exits and a number of threats. In fact, he asked to make an insight check on Neth. He rolls somewhat well, but not well enough. He more or less asks what Forsburn would make of him, like is he a threat, and things like that. And I kind of explained that he would clearly be able to tell that this speaker is some sort of commanding officer, to view it through the Khotun lens, sort of. And while he is quite clearly there, near naked in nothing but a satin gold gown is how I described him, is like very nonchalant, very relaxed and chill. Forsman still can't quite figure out why Neth scares him. It's that level of danger that he receives from him. He's not sure either way. It's extremely cautious and letting that instinct take over for him. Which, to be honest, has been Forsman's feelings most of the time, and going forward, it's just acting with extreme caution, not too sure what to make of things, that kind of stuff. There's a brief discussion about Meryn, and Neth offers some free information by the way of the key to Meryn's abode. He states it as a gift, as if the party are able to deal with Meryn, then it would be doing them both a favour. Of course, the party takes the key, which I describe as more like a stone runic key card kind of design than an actual metal key, and eventually they leave. They also talk briefly about the lake beast they heard about, and pick up a few names of inquiry, namely a fisherman called Harris. And they suggest that they may also try and test a skill against that to try and rest their minds from the whole Goodmead Stroner situation and try and get some other reward from Neth. As they head out, Neth manages to get Rayna's attention and hands her a pouch of 10 platinum pieces after kissing her hand gently and sincerely apologising for the last visit's events, and trying to throw in that more air of what is this guy's deal kind of thing. I'm not really sure how the party feel about Neth. I think that, maybe I think that they think he is up to no good, but he's definitely like a charming and manipulative sort of man. I've definitely got that idea across, I think. They've, I don't know if they've begun to figure out his deal. And to be honest, I'm not too sure if I've thought of his deal, like what side he really is on. And I kind of enjoy having him as a character that could easily flip to either side of the coin. It's kind of like sitting gingerly on the edge of Morpheus's coin from the Matrix, and if my suspicions are correct that they do think that he is actually shady, and but still acts with good intentions. It kind of adds to that confusion, helps exemplify that. Why is he doing this if he's actually bad? Kind of idea. It kind of gives them, it makes them not to know what to think about him, and I think that's that's really quite good. A nice little thing. Dan, Rainer's character, did have an idea about a possible identity for Nerthy. They thought he was thinking about one of the other games in Aracséa that I've run. There's a Devil Prince of Lies that one of his other characters is a patron of. Unwilling patron, but a patron nonetheless. And he is also very charismatic, makes deals, has manipulative, and he thought that Neth may be this Devil Lord in disguise. It is not, but it is an interesting theory. There is, that Devil Lord does make its way around Aracséa for sure. I've had him show up in various places, but it's normally through the guise of someone with a green cloak, and it's normally one of his names, in fact, is the Green Wanderer. So it's just another little bit of side lore. But I do like it when they start to think, start to bring their knowledge from other campaigns in this setting into it, and that's kind of the eventual idea. Most of the time, Dan keeps saying to me, when are you going to bring out the Aracséa campaign setting book? I'm like, I'm working on it. I mean, I don't think I'll ever be able to officially release it because of the amount of stuff that I borrowed from everywhere else, and like the official names. Like most of the Frostgale stuff is just a copy paste from Icewind Gale, at least like the names of the places and bits of the map. But I do have, an extensive OneNote with a bunch of stuff about this world. I've been building it for, like I said in the first episode, for like 2.5 years or wherever it's been, and almost 3 now, I want to say, maybe. So yeah, I really enjoyed that part. Next, they head to Merrin's house from here, and which is a very stately abode made of rock. It's all very geometric and like classically Jorgen design. The key card slides into a mechanism on the door, and I describe the door almost like taking it like somewhat mechanically, and like taking it in by itself, and like magically begins releasing the seal on the archway. They enter, and inside is a lavishly decorated typical Jorgen home. There are 5 rooms in total, 1 bedroom, who Forsburn rifles through and loots completely, like finding various bits of jewelry and whatnot. And also from that, he notices that obviously Merrin hasn't returned here, and possibly concludes that whatever Merrin was involved in, because Forsburn doesn't really know, was important enough not to bother coming back for his wealth, which he does take note of. He's a thief kind of thing. He's got this idea about making money. He knows it's important to humans, so whatever Merrin's done is clearly not as important as this wealth and raising rank, looking at it through this Khotan lens. It is also during this rifle, I should mention that he receives another message from Raz, this time asking about, like, is he going to be back for dinner, which he says he won't be back for. I do this, both messages, by the way, were in full view of Rainer and Dan, her player character, to try and show that there is something going on with Forsburn. Normally I'd pull them into, like, a private channel if I wanted to have, like, a message only they'd hear or send them a message. But I think for something like this, where you want to let them know that something else is going on, I think it's perfectly fine to do stuff like that. The three other rooms that had nothing of interest. There was a dining room with like a kitchen area, the entrance hall as well, and a sitting room with like a few bits in it. The last room, however, did have something interesting in it, which was a study, which had like an L-shaped desk on it, a bunch of papers, a little map with a cross over Targos and a circle around Goodmead, just to kind of exemplify like that Merrin's plan kind of thing. And there was an unusually bare stone wall in there as well. And after some fooling around with it, Raina, for instance, had to like whack it a few times with her new great axe, and then Forsburn came in and had a little look. They discovered there was this hidden safe behind it of sorts. And inside this vault, this safe, it contained 4 things. One was a lump of something that Raina instantly recognised as oath glass. And the other three items were all letters. The first of which said, like in brief, because I didn't really write these down, that had said that something called the Assembly, in quotation marks, would be interested in his, meaning Romarian's, proposal, and would meet at something called the Giant Stones, and it's sent by the initials RK. The second seemed to be a bunch of scribblings out. It seems to be a returning letter, but seemed to be talking about like what should happen if things go wrong and things like that. Um, the third and final paper said in brief again, more or less that all was going according to plan and that Merrin could proceed as normal. Could enact his plans as normal. And again, this was sent from someone called that went by the initials RK. Now, you guys may already have be aware of who this Arca is, and you may indeed be right. It is indeed Relsaram Cree, the mage who was burnt by the people of East Haven. Now, of course, these letters were sent some time ago, and possibly before he was killed. But also remember that this is the little hint that I wanted to give the players, that Relsaram, well, you already have this little hint. Relsalam was an illusion and enchantment specialist, and so indeed the body on the fire may have been a elaborate and well thought out hoax. Of course, the truth will not come out for the players for a while, but the seed is here now. With these letters, and of course obviously this assembly is indeed the Azarime assembly, which I've talked about before, and now the players kind of have their first solid link here between this organization and someone that they know. And we know, you and I know that Gora was also involved here, so they also have that, but they don't know about that yet. And we know that the three missing people, the scientists, are involved with this as well. And now the players have, but now with this Merrin thing, they have a real link to this assembly, and then they just need to figure out basically what the assembly is, because none of them are really well learned of the outside world. Mutiny, this is the only one that really has any sort of knowledge, kind of tells them a bit about the assembly, saying it's mostly a magic school off to the far south. Her Grey Priory organization and many others, it's this kind of fighty organizations, suspect that there's a more moral agenda at the top of the hierarchy of the assembly, but it's never been proven. And that's kind of what she alludes to here. The Oathglass, now that was basically some sort of a red herring, really, to place it here and trying to mix up a few of the quests going on. You and I know that it's in fact Zarazes and his real name and his Dwargar that are steering all the Oathglass, but placing it. But deciding to put some Oathglass in the safe has probably thrown into the light the possibility that the assembly may be involved in that as well. And that is kind of the theory that Raina has going now, is that it's all linked together. But alas, it was there just to throw them off. Instead, it's basically just in the safe because Merrin would be aware, that it's worth quite a bit, that Oathglass is, and would probably going to use it to pay off the wizards for their help in something. At any rate, after that search not bringing about any leads as to Merrin's possible location, they decide to rest up in the abode for the night and tackle a new task in the morning. And that is pretty much where we left off with that one. Forsburn stayed up long into the night, and he kind of looked outside of the window and said to himself that he couldn't quite believe that he was amongst civilization, and properly amongst civilization too, and not just skulking around. So yeah, next session I believe they intend to check out the lake monster next session to get in some combat. In fact, I forgot to mention they did speak to someone about the lake monster before they went to Merrin's place. The information they gathered was basically as follows. One is that it seems to be attacking somewhere in the centre of the lake, between here and Tourmaline and Lonely Wood, somewhere in the middle. And the fisherman, who was named Harris, I remind you, seemed to believe that the beast spoke to him before it attacked, and more or less said something like, "Why can I talk?" And I guess we may discover what's behind all that in a future episode. You and I will know that it's because it's an awakened beast. Anyway, as always, guys, thank you for watching. This has been Session 11, Forsburn Twinblade, and we will see you next time.